totally made it through the whole workout and forgot to do the introduction speech like we typically do, but we're gonna forget any of that happened, and welcome to today's workout. Another 45-minute workout here for us. We're gonna have a little warm-up section after this, so if you want, you can let that play out. If you are unfamiliar with some of the movements, go ahead and skip to the back. We'll have those discussion videos for you. Today's gonna be focusing a lot on hip stability. So we're gonna have transverse plane, some frontal plane, some sagittal plane work, just everything doing either single leg, some type of rotation, or fighting rotation. So you're definitely gonna be feeling a lot in your core, a lot of stability. We're gonna get the heart pumping. We're gonna start off with a TABATA. So this will just be all the major compound movements. And then from there, we're gonna move into specialized, slower pace style of training. What I'm using today, the leg movements, I'm using a 65. For some pushing movements, we're gonna have a 45. And then for the core, then overhead stability type things, I drop down to a 30. Use something moderately heavy, and then a little bit lighter as we get into the more like skill-oriented type of movements. We're gonna be moving the body in some funky ways. And as always, appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you on the other side. All right, folks, welcome aboard. Thanks for choosing me for your weekly installment of Pain and Suffering. We're gonna get a little warm up going, some inchworms. We're gonna get a little bit of rotational movement here with the lunge, some beetles, and a tabletop press. So everything here should be get the spine moving, grooving, getting all the joints limbered up, just getting some blood flowing for us, getting our mind prepared, getting our body prepared for movement. We're gonna be flexing, extending, rotating, all that fun stuff. And so let's use our core, let's stabilize, let's get used to being on one leg, let's get our ankles warmed up, our knees, and let's just get our mind prepped for what's to come. So we got about an hour workout today, 45 minutes. Let's buckle down, let's get a little sweat going. Hopefully at this point we are warmed up, we are limbered up, we're ready to rumble. We're gonna hop into a 12-minute TABATA, so just split between 4 movements, each one working for 40 seconds, followed by 20 seconds of rest. Getting through it 3 times, 12 minutes in entirety. We're just gonna be hitting some compound movements here with the kettlebell, kind of getting our body used to having a load on it. Starting off with a squat, overhead press, swings, and bent over rows. Very simple movements. We're gonna get that heart rate up before we hop into the more specialized movements. So grab your water, grab your kettlebells, and let's get after it. How we feeling out there, y'all? That's 1 round down. We got 2 more to go, but who's really counting? Let's stay good with that form. Let's stay breathing, and let's hop right back into it. You got it.
Look inside the rabbit hole. Set me free from you. Somebody please keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from somebody please keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Somebody please help me. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from somebody please keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. On and on. What kind of spell you put on me? I've lost all sense and can't feel. Only you can make me whole. I don't wanna lose my soul. I'm so scared I can't breathe. I just don't know what to believe. You wrote my name on your soul. Set me free from you. Somebody please keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from somebody please keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Somebody please help me. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from somebody please keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Keep me from twisting. Somebody please help me. Please help me. Please help me.
Coming out swinging. That was awesome. Y'all did great. So we got about 2 minutes right here. So get off your feet, grab a water, catch your breath, let the heart rate come back down. We're gonna hop into 2 new movements. One of them may be relatively new for you. The first one is gonna be a suitcase deadlift into a same side reverse lunge. So that's really gonna be testing your core and your trunk and everything to stay upright, as well as some single leg strength. The second movement here is gonna be an overhead press. Let's go a little bit lighter with this one because we are gonna move into a windmill, again testing our trunk, into a terminal knee extension. I'll give you $1 if you guess that one off of the TKE, but this one will be testing again our hip mobility into some overhead stability, and as always the core is going to be involved working that unilateral strength. So grab your water, we got 2 minutes and we're going to hop on back into it. You got it.
Something
second movement in particular. If it is your first go around, I would say a good cue for this would be to imagine the kettlebell is going to be on a string and that's almost attached to the ceiling. So it's pulling up as high as you can. Try and push that kettlebell high into the sky the whole time so you're locking that shoulder into place, very strong, very stable, and always keep your eyeball on the kettlebell. If you start moving and that shoulder starts getting a little funky on you and waving all over the place, maybe go a little bit lighter, go a little bit slower, or just move it into an overhead press by itself and just hold it there for a couple counts. So we're just focusing a lot on the shoulder stability aspect to it. You don't want to force anything and put your shoulder in a compromised position. So just be mindful right here, take it slow.
Sitting throwing rocks across the pavement, hoping it'll cave in and swallow me whole. Wondering how the world keeps on spinning, kinda scared of living when it unfolds. Hard to see the light when everything is silent, waiting for the clear. Thankful I'm alive, but terrified of dying. But hey, I'm still here. Is it bad? Sometimes I like it when I lose control. There's something in it that's so beautiful. Listen, I can see the light but I can also see the bones decay. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away.
Good job getting through those last 3 sets. Those are definitely difficult exercises. Some full body type of exercises right here. So it's going to be a pull, a clean, moving into a curtsy. So we're going to be opening up our hips, working on some single leg strength. While we're in that bottom position of the curtsy, we're going to go ahead and move that torso over. We're going to be focusing on our trunk, on our core, everything here to stabilize. The second exercise, that'll be a bird dog. So the bear stance, if you're familiar with that, the opposite arm, opposite leg, trying to keep it as level as we can. So if you got that bowl of cereal on your low back, don't spill anything, keeping all the milk in the bowl. Really just trying to be strong in our core and our hips and a lot of shoulder stability. Take this minute to yourself and we'll hop right back into it. feeling a little bit ambitious today, let's get a heavier kettlebell for this last go around. You can't let me have all the fun. All right, last set. Let's do this. work for these two movements. The only thing I'm going to point out right here is notice my knee placement. They're both going to be half knee length positions. With the swing, my hips are open, so that bottom knee is going to be perpendicular to that front one. For the halo and the extension, my knees are going to be in line. So just something to take note of, have your hips in the correct positioning for these two exercises. last 5 minutes right here, folks, before you have your freedom back. This one's just going to be an AMRAP. So we're doing 10 of the hip flexion. So picture a mountain climber upside down. If you do have a mini band, you can go ahead, slap that upon the top side of your feet. And then we're going to be doing a push-up with a single arm overhead extension. So math is hard sometimes, especially at the end of a workout. So disregard my counting, kind of just go at your own pace. We're doing 10 and 10. Just flip it around. We got 5 minutes here and you're all set. Great job today, y'all. last minute right here. If we can get through each movement one more time, that'd be awesome. So let's dig deep, let's finish strong. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next week. All right, well, that was fun. All right, that was a good one. Congrats to you. Thanks for stopping in again. Little TABATA to get everything started. A lot of hip today, a lot of hip stability. Bird dogs were great. The open hip with the kettlebell swing, that's really good. Especially for the hip flexors, we're trying to strengthen and lengthen. Kind of a cliche, corny saying, but that's kind of the goal of this workout today. So we were strengthening the hip flexors, the adductors, a lot of the core, anti-rotation, funky movements, a lot of stabilization, but it's good. I had a good workout. Hopefully you did too. Thanks for stopping in again. We'll see you next week. Alrighty, y'all, if you're hopping in the back, this is going to be dissecting some of the movements. If you had any questions, that first one being part of the TABATA, we're looking at a kettlebell squat. So we're going to hoist that kettlebell right up to about mid-chest. Make sure that bell is right underneath our chin. Nice, high and tight up on the chest. And then as we descend, we're going to try and have our chest and our hips moving at the same time. So we don't want to be doing a good morning, any type of funky movement right here and janky with everything moving every which way. Nice and in unison as we descend. Try and have your knees forcing out the whole time. If you got construction paper in between your feet, try and rip that. So that's going to force the weight onto the outside of our feet. Same idea as we drive upwards. Chest is going to rise. Hips, we're going to drive forward, and then the knees are always going to stay out. Always keeping that kettlebell as close to the body as you can. Moving into an overhead press. So if we're still in that front rack position, high and tight up on the chest, we're just driving that thing up overhead. So trying to keep our ribs down, trying to squeeze our glutes, make sure everything's nice and engaged. Moving as one unit, driving it up. As we go up overhead, we don't want that low back swinging out. We don't want to forget about the lower body. As we said, make sure everything is nice, engaged, and strong. So as we're driving up, exhale. On the way back down, you can take that breath in. If we start getting fatigued, you can give yourself a little bit of a bounce, a little bit of momentum, just dip down a little bit, and then as we drive up overhead with our legs, that'll give you that little bit of oomph to get you up over the top. Moving into a kettlebell swing. So let's start off. That kettlebell is just going to be 4 or 5 inches ahead of us. Hips are going to be down, slight bend in the knees. We're having a flat back right here, so think moving plank. On that initial pull, we're going to hinge, pull, have that kettlebell almost slap our backside, and then as one unit, we're going to force those hips forward. We're going to raise our chest. We're going to squeeze our glutes, get everything up and rolling, and use that initial momentum off that pull, and that'll get that pendulum working for you. So get that kettlebell up to about mid-chest. Same idea on the way back. We're not forgetting about the body, so everything right here nice and engaged on the way back down, and just repeating the process. So the whole time, squeezing the glutes, keeping that core nice and tight. The final movement here for the TABATA before we link it back to the top, it's going to be an alternating bent over row. So let's use those same mechanics as a deadlift, that hinge pattern, right? Weight's going to be in our heels, soft bend in the knees, flat back, everything nice and tight. And then we're just going to be alternating. So picture starting a lawnmower, starting a snowmobile, something like that, grabbing that kettlebell up by the horn, and then we're going to pull it up to our back pocket. So don't get too obsessed trying to lift the weight up per se, but more so drive through that elbow. So if we pull up through the elbow, that'll retract the scapula, get a little bit more of a squeeze through those lats, engage those muscles a bit more, and just more stability. So we don't want that shoulder rocking forward if we're just pulling the kettlebell. If we focus on moving the entirety of the arm, it'll put you in a safer position all in all. Moving past the TABATA here, we're going to have a suitcase deadlift into an ipsilateral reverse lunge. So suitcase deadlift, same mechanics as a regular deadlift, we're just offsetting that load. So if the kettlebell is just going to be on one side here, this is really going to ask your core, ask your trunk, everything to maintain that neutral spine as we go throughout that hip hinge. So let's grab one of those, and then the second part of this movement, we're going to move into a reverse lunge. So let's say the kettlebell is on your right hand side, our left leg is going to go back. So ipsilateral meaning same side, weights in the right hand, and then we're gonna be driving up through that right leg, through that lunge pattern. So the whole time we're trying to have, like I said, neutral spine, especially in that lunge. We don't want that trunk leaning forward. We want to stay as vertical as we can. So our shoulders stacked over our hips, and then that hip over that knee as we move into that lunge. And we're just moving this for 8 right here. So we have the deadlift into a lunge. Movement number 2, we're gonna have a half kneeling overhead press into a terminal knee extension. The last part sounds kind of sketchy, but bear with me. If we are down in the half kneeling, so that means one leg is going to be down, the leg that is up is going to be the arm that we're going to be pressing with. So let's say right knee down, left leg up, left arm has the kettlebell. We're going to drive that up overhead, really test our shoulder stability. We're going to test our hip mobility as well as our core strength, thoracic mobility, all that fun stuff. So with the opposite arm that does not have the kettlebell, we're going to go ahead, reach down, widen out our foundation. So this would be the hip mobility aspect of things. And then with the bottom leg, we're going to try and extend that one. So squeezing through our quads. This is the terminal knee extension part of it. What this is doing is integrating a little bit of upper body as well as lower body. So if we are driving up through our lower half, we're trying to be stable up top, as well as all the mobility aspects and stability within the shoulder and the thoracic. Definitely an intricate movement, so take it slow. What we're looking for is just to keep that kettlebell as vertical as we can. So if you can picture a string at the end of that kettlebell, pulling it up towards the ceiling, that's kind of the idea of things. So trying to stay vertical, trying to stay compact within that shoulder complex, and really tight throughout the core. Always an eye on the kettlebell. Then as we return to center, we're going to drop it back down, move into another press. We're going to move into a row, a clean, an ipsilateral curtsy, and a torso rotation. So a lot of different movements right here. We're not trying to rush this. First one, same movement as before. We have that bent over row. We're going to move it up to a clean, so driving hard through the elbow, moving into that front rack position. Same one as the ipsilateral reverse lunge. Now we're going to be curtsying to the same side as the kettlebell. So for instance, let's do everything on our right side here. We're doing the row, we're doing the clean. It's in that front rack on the right side. Have that left leg move around. We're now going to be testing that single leg strength in a curtsy on the right side. So when we're down, let's open up the shoulder. Let's move that torso. And then that'll ask our obliques and core and everything to stabilize here as we go about the movement. What we don't want to do is force anything. So if we don't have the mobility in our adductors, so in our hips on that bottom leg, it might be a little bit of a stretch. You know, you might feel some strain down there, so just go to something that's comfortable. You don't want to push it too far, then we're not feeling too hot the next day or injured or something like that. So just move to what you're comfortable with. Ideally, we're going to have our shoulders the same way every time. So we don't want the kettlebell getting away from us, just to think we're getting a little bit more rotation. If you can maintain that good posture as we rotate, by all means, go as far as you can. If you start getting to that tipping point where it is a little bit of a strain, call it right there, get back to that neutral position. Then we're going to stand back up into that start point and repeat the process on the other side. Pairing with this movement right here, we're going to do a bear stance into a bird dog into a down dog. So a lot of different animal names right here. The bear stance, we went over this a couple times in other videos. I really like this one. It's really great for hip stability and core activation and everything. You're going to be down, nice flat back, try and have your knees underneath your hips, shins parallel to the ground there, and that'll be kind of the default position. Then moving into a bird dog, it's going to be opposite arm, opposite leg for an extension. Whole time trying to maintain that nice level posture right here. We don't want our hips swinging all over the place. I like to say if we have, a cup of tea or a bowl of cereal or something on our lower back, as we move, we don't want the hip shifting and have that spilling all over the place. So just a mental note there for you. 1 and 1 on each side for the bird dog, and then moving into a down dog. If somebody were to grab your waist by the belt and pull it up, that's kind of the idea that we're looking for. So drive hard into the mat and then give those hamstrings a nice big breath of fresh air. Give them that big stretch. If the hamstrings are a little lagging on you, they're a little bit tight, you can kind of pedal it out, just alternate each side, tap those heels down. It is a little bit challenging there for the bird dog. You can just do one leg extension or one hand extension. Find a level of difficulty that works for you. We're now going to be moving into the core department of everything. I know every other workout and exercise definitely had that core influence of stability and everything, but this is going to be more catered towards like rotation and then just using the core to go about the movement. So this first one's going to be a half kneeling, hip open kettlebell swing. Traditionally, the half kneeling one, we're all pointing in one angle. This one, the hip is going to be open, so that bottom knee, let's say right knee is down, left knee is up. That right knee is going to be perpendicular. So that hip's going to be open right here, so our torso is going to be a little bit in alignment to that down leg. You're going to grab the kettlebell up by the horn, so the weighted part that'll be down on the bottom, we're grabbing it by the horns, and then we're going to start in our right hip pocket. And then as we rotate, really calling upon those obliques, really calling upon our core, maintain that upright posture, as well as getting a little bit of a rotation right here. As we extend, we're going to bring it up to about chin level, mid-chest, not trying to get up over our head or anything, and retract it back down to that start position. Movement number 2, we're doing a half kneeling hip to halo into a frontal extension. So the previous movement, we had that hip open half kneeling. This time we're just going to wrap that lower leg around, so now we're all pointing in the same direction here, still getting a little bit of rotation. So from the hip, we're going down to the down leg, put it in your pocket, and then as we come up, drawing a big figure 8, so let's do right hip, left ear, right ear to that front chest. So just drawing that big formation, and then we're going to press it out ahead, so testing our shoulder strength, and then testing our erectors and our backside. So as we extend, that lever arm is going to increase, and you're going to have that urge to lean forward with that weight. You're going to have that little bit of load up in front. So use your core, brace yourself, and make sure that torso doesn't lean forward. Hold it there for a count, bring it back into that mid-chest, and then back to that start position. So back into your holster, if you will. So hip, halo, and out in front. Be sure not to bonk yourself. So if you got weight, I'm assuming it's going to be metal. You don't want that whacking yourself in the head. So just be mindful of that. Really test that core. Last couple of movements here for us. This will be in an AMRAP format. So we're just going 10 and 10. That first movement is going to be a supine mini band single leg hip flexion. So supine laying on your back, trying to get fancy and flex some science words on you. It'll be kind of the inverse of a mountain climber. So typically a mountain climber is up on our hands in a plank. We're now going to be on our backside, testing our core and our hip flexor strength. If you don't have a mini band, that's totally fine. Just go ahead, drive those knees up. If you do have it, that's just going to create a little bit more tension, a little bit more resistance as we go through those hip flexors, create a little bit more tension in there for your core. The main thing we're looking for right here is keeping our low back on the ground. So if we're kind of lacking in core strength, we're going to start feeling those hips rotate. That low back is going to come up off the mat. You're going to have a nice curve in your back, and that is what we're looking to avoid. So find a position that works for you. A good measuring stick for this in like a bear stance position, but on your back. Slowly just let those heels come out. And then as soon as you start feeling the opposite side, your back start coming up off the mat, that's where you can call it a day, and that's where you can begin those movements. If we start all the way down and we're in that curve position, we're not really going to get too much out of this exercise. You probably do more harm than good. So find something that works for you and drive those knees up. Finishing up this workout, we're going to do a push-up into a single arm overhead extension. So don't think I need to explain a push-up. From there, at the top of it, we're going to just reach out overhead. So as all of these hip movements and core movements go, we want to have everything as stable and level as we can. Really ask upon the shoulder stability of that down arm as well as the hips. So no shifting. Wider base definitely makes this movement a bit easier. When we release one of the arms, try and have that same foot driving to the ground as hard as you can, and that should kind of reinforce everything staying nice and level as you move the upper body. Then we're going to get 1 and 1 and move back into that push-up.